everyone, and welcome to the second half of Longman's nUislenn, the Exile of the Sons of Uisliu. Just a warning, this story gets really nasty and violent towards the end, and I've put some more detailed trigger warnings in the description just in case that's something that's a concern for you, so you might want to check that out. You know, look after yourselves. When we last saw them, the Sons of Uisliu, that's nUislenn and his two brothers, have gone into exile. It's almost like the title of the story is relevant, because Deirdre has tricked nUislenn into running away with her. Conchobar is obviously not thrilled about his future wife running off with his nephew, so they have to keep moving around, moving from one king's protection to the next, and Conchobar's determination to kill them means eventually they just have to flee the country entirely and go to Scotland. They spend a bit of time living in Scotland as outlaws, hunting mountain game and cattle raiding the Scottish when it suits them, but Conchobar still doesn't give up on trying to kill them, so they go to the King of Scotland and offer to enter his service in exchange for protection, and they become his mercenaries. They're still not free of danger though, so when they build their houses, they do so in such a way that Deirdre can be hidden inside so that nobody will know she's with them. And that includes the King of Scotland. But one day the King's steward is walking in amongst the houses and he sees Deirdre and nUislenn sleeping there together, and he concludes that Deirdre is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. So he goes back to the king and is like, okay, so you know how you don't have a wife because I couldn't find anyone who was good enough for you? I think I've fixed that problem. nUislenn has a girlfriend who would do perfectly, so if you kill him, you can have her. The king considers this, but decides murdering his very useful new mercenaries is not maybe the best approach. So he tells the steward to instead go secretly to Deirdre and try and persuade her to leave nUislenn. Unfortunately, Deirdre is too loyal and tells nUislenn everything that's happening, and everything the steward tells her, she passes on. So while he's still not thrilled about the idea of killing his mercenaries, the King of Scotland begins sending the Sons of Uisliu into increasingly dangerous situations, hoping that they will get killed. Unfortunately for him, the Sons of Uisliu are great fighters and just keep winning these impossible victories, and whatever he does, they're just not dying. So eventually he gathers the men of Scotland and is like, I need you to kill these guys. He makes the mistake though of having this information passed on to Deirdre, who obviously warns nUislenn about it. So that night the Sons of Uisliu sneak out and go to an island in the middle of the sea where no one can reach them. News of this reaches the Ulstermen, and they feel sorry for the Sons of Uisliu. They go to Conchobar and they're like, it's not fair on them that Deirdre's crimes have them sent into enemy territory where they're getting murdered by enemies. Surely it's time to forgive them and let them come home. They're really useful fighters. You could use them here. Fine, says Conchobar. They can come home. At this point, the early modern version of the text does something a bit different. In that later version, Conchobar knows the Sons of Uisliu won't believe he's changed his mind unless there's some kind of guarantee, and apparently there's also a magical prohibition on nUislenn that he can't return unless he's accompanied by a warrior at least as good as him, which seriously limits Conchobar's options for someone to send as a guarantee, so he begins looking for a champion who will take the message. First, he asks Conchobar. So, he says, if I sent you to guarantee the safety of the Sons of Uisliu and then something bad happened to them, what would you do? Like asking for a friend. And Conall goes, I would literally kill everybody involved, including you. Yeah, says Conchobar. That's not ideal. So then he asks Cuchulainn, hey, if I sent you to get the Sons of Uisliu and then they maybe got a bit murdered, what would you do? And Cuchulainn goes, I would literally kill everybody involved, including you. Why are you asking me this? Oh, just a hypothetical, says Conchobar. And so he asks Fergus. Fergus, if I sent you to get the Sons of Uisliu and they were just straight up killed, you know, hypothetically speaking, what would you do? And Fergus is like, well, I would be pretty upset, you know. I'd probably want some revenge, but you know I'd never hurt you personally, right? I knew I liked you for a reason, says Conchobar. Fergus, you're up. Go fetch the Sons of Uisliu. So that's the early modern version, which is clearly trying to explain why Cuchulainn and Conall aren't involved in this, but the medieval version doesn't bother with that. Instead, they send a message to the Sons of Uisliu, who say, okay, we'll come back if Fergus, Dubthach and Cormac, son of Conchobar, will guarantee our safety. And that's more or less it. The early modern version also has Deirdre trying to warn them against it. She's had a dream about 3 birds coming to them with honey in their beaks and taking away 3 drops of their blood. That's about as clear a bad omen as you can get, and she thinks that Conchobar is going to go back on his promise. But nUislenn argues that Fergus could never be involved in any kind of deception or betrayal like that, and the fact that he's come to guarantee their safety means it's going to be okay. Cheer up, Deirdre, he says, we're going home. Again, the medieval version doesn't go in for this level of foreshadowing, but I came across Deirdre's dream in a song by Occam's Razor a few years ago, and for years I was confused about where it came from because it wasn't in the version I knew. When I first read the early modern version and found those words right there, echoing the song, It was a revelation. I was like, that's where that comes from. Anyway, going back to the medieval version, since that is technically the one I'm telling here. So they're on their way home and Conchobar starts trying to separate them from their various protectors. The Sons of Uisliu have said they won't eat any food in Ireland before they eat Conchobar's food. So they get Fergus invited to a bunch of banquets which the Sons of Uisliu can't accompany him to. Somehow this ends up involving Dubthach and Cormac as well, which means that by the time the Sons of Uisliu arrive at Conchobar's fort, they're accompanied only by Fiachú, son of Fergus, who joined them after his father was waylaid. Conchobar, on the other hand, isn't alone. He's got with him a guy named Owen MacDurthacht. He's king of the Fernmag and he's come to make peace with him after they've been at war for a very long time. Now Conchobar's made a bargain with Owen and it's not one that bodes well for Nisha. It's also noticeable that despite having invited the Sons of Uisliu there, Conchobar has surrounded himself by warriors as though he thinks he's going to be in some danger at some point. So the Sons of Uisliu are crossing the green while all the women watch from the ramparts. Owen and his men approach from one side, Nisha and his brothers and Fiachú from the other. Hang on, I have to put my tea down for this. Slowly they approach, and then when Nisha gets close enough, Owen thrusts a spear through him so hard it breaks his back. Fiachú leaps forward to protect him, pushing him to the ground, but all this means is that Fiachú is killed too. Owen's peace with Conchobar came with a price, and that price was killing the Sons of Uisliu so that Conchobar can avoid the problem of kinslaying. Nisha's brothers and allies are all killed too until the field is littered with bodies, and Deirdre is dragged over to Conchobar, hands bound behind her back. Fergus, Dubthach and Cormac hear about what's gone down, and they hightail it back to Evan-Macha where all of this happened, ready to take revenge, accompanied by men more loyal to them than to Conchobar. At least 300 of the Ulstermen are killed in the ensuing battle, including one of Conchobar's sons and one of his grandsons. Dubthach is really pissed off and he starts killing all the maidens of Ulster, and Fergus, enraged, sets Evan on fire. Obviously there's no staying in Ulster after they have killed so many people and set the king's fort on fire, so Fergus, Dubthach and Cormac flee to Exile and Medivh in Connacht. Not because they like them, but because when you're Conchobar's enemies, hanging out with Exile and Medivh, who are the only people more or less strong enough to oppose him, is basically your only option. 3,000 men go with them, and the people of Ulster weep for them, because among that number is some of their best and most loved warriors. Supposedly this lasts 16 years, although given that Fergus is Cuchulain's foster father, and therefore must have been in Ulster while Cuchulain was a child, and Cuchulain is only 17 in the time, that timeline doesn't add up, but let's just ignore the weirdnesses of medieval Irish chronology. Now for over a year Deirdre is with Conchobar and she doesn't smile once. She's not eating, she's not sleeping, she's not enjoying anything. When musicians play she utters a long lament, and I won't adapt all of it, but it's mostly about how much she loved Nisha and how no matter how beautiful the music they're playing is, it's nothing compared to the singing of the Sons of Uisliu. It finishes with a comment about how she'll never be happy again, so Conchobar tries to comfort her. At which point she points out that it is his fault she's depressed in the first place, and that she will never love him because he did just kill the person she loved most in the world. So he asks her, who is it you hate the most? And Deirdre's like, well, it's hard to pick between you and Owen MacDurthacht because, you know, you are both very implicated in this, so I'm just gonna go with both. And Conchobar says, okay then, you'll spend the next year with Owen. And he gives her to Owen. The next day, they're all on their way to the assembly of Macha, and Deirdre is with Owen in his chariot, and Conchobar approaches, trapping her between the two of them. Like a sheep between two rams, says Conchobar, and Deirdre takes the only way out she's got. She throws herself out of the chariot against a huge stone boulder, shattering her own skull. And that's the end of the story. So that's a pretty depressing note to end on, but I feel like this is a useful story to know if you want to understand the time, because that explains why Fergus and Cormac are in Connacht, fighting for Exile and Medivh, and not with Conchobar. If you have any questions about this or any of the other stories I've told so far, please leave them in the comments. I am planning a Q&A video in the near future, which means that now is a great time to ask me questions. I've been collecting them on Tumblr at Longman, so you can drop them in my ask box there or just leave them in the comments. Don't have to be about specific stories, they can just be general comments about medieval literature. And you can also request other stories for me to do in the future. As ever, all my social media links are in the description, as is a link to my Ko-fi account if you want to support my further research and videos, and I will see you soon for a more general video in which I answer your questions about medieval literature. And I hope this one hasn't depressed you too much. It is a very tragic ending, and there's a reason that Deirdre is known sometimes as Deirdre of the Sorrows. That happy ending in Meregath Ilix is looking a long way away right now, isn't it? So yeah, see you soon. Bye!